ago, our daughter Roxy was making a list. And if you remember growing up when you were younger, you were making this list too. It was right around her birthday, and when she saw things, she knew that she had to get them on the list. Because if you get them on the list, you know they're going to magically appear. You know that someone, somewhere, somehow is going to get you those things. And she would write down, I want the Barbies. You'd be like, which one? She'd be like, all of them. I want all of them. All right. Well, and we'd see princess stuff. What do you mean by princess stuff? All the princess stuff. And then we got down to, and we kind of semi-live at Target or Target for you fancier folks. And so we saw that aisle 18 was on there. And they have aisle numbers, and that was, what do you mean aisle 18? Everything on aisle 18. I want it all. And so she made this list. There was one thing that she really wanted for her birthday. And so the day came, and you know, if you've ever been around little kids and all this stuff, you know that it's crazy and sugar and it's just bonkers. And so they're doing their thing, and then we get to the presents. And it's always a little awkward because when they're little too, kids like think like, well, I want something too. And so it's trying to pull your child away from the other child that it's their birthday. Why don't I get anything? Because you're not special. And so, well, just kidding. We don't say that out loud. But we're pulling them away, and she's opening up presents and doing her thing. And you could see, and she did, wow, I got this. And she's showing everyone. And then we get to the end of the presents, and she's looking around. I could see the wheels turning. Where is it? Where is the, and you see, we didn't put the big item out because we're awful parents. And we waited. And so before she started turning around, turning onto the corner of like, I hate my parents lane, is right before it was about to turn there, I was walking out of the room, and I went and got the scooter. And I got on said scooter, and we had this little foyer area, and they were in the living room, and so I just come going by like, yeah, and doing this, and she's like, oh my gosh! And later on, it then became equipped because she got this with her own allowance money with the unicorn helmet, which is pretty fantastic. And she was so pumped, and she goes over there, and she's like, thank you, Daddy, look everybody, I got a scooter! And she's running around and doing her thing and showing everybody. And so we let the kids go and do their thing and play in the living room, and they're playing with all the toys. And we did what all parents do and adults do at a birthday party. We got away from the children. And so we're all in the kitchen trying to forget that we have little humans and letting them play. And all of a sudden we hear this just commotion going on. And I'm done with it. And we're like, what is going on? I can hear that it's our daughter. And she is just upset. And as I'm rounding the corner out of the kitchen, I see from the living room just this scooter fly by and out of the thing. And I'm like, this is not good. And Roxy is just tears right now. I just can't do it, Daddy. It's broken. And she's going on and on. I'm like, oh, calm down. Calm down. I just can't do it. I'm not even good. And she just sits down on the floor. And she's just sobbing. Like, I just take it back. It's broken. I can't do it. I don't even want it. I'm done. She's just going on and on. Now, the thing is, much as it is with life, there are moments where we come across something that we really wanted. Maybe it's that new job that we thought was going to turn things around that didn't end up the way that we thought it would. Maybe it's that relationship that you've just, maybe it's a friendship or, that boyfriend, girlfriend, that husband, wife that you were thinking that would solve all the problems. And yet, once you started taking that relationship for a spin, it was not at all what you thought you had signed up for. Or maybe for you, as you got into a relationship and you started having kids, and everyone talks about the joy of children and all these things. And maybe even for you, the process of having a child ended up going very differently than you had planned. Or it was your bundle of joy, and then as they got older, you realized the difficulty that it was in parenting them and taking care of them, and you thought that everything was going to be great. You had put that thing on your list. that thing would make life better. That would make life new. Then you got it, and much like Roxy, you threw it out into the hallway, just screaming, God, I don't know what to do with this. See, I think we've all been there. Moments that we thought were going to go very differently than we had planned. And we question our identity and our worth and whether or not that life could ever be the same again. And we've been in this series, The New You, and we started off week 1 looking at this premise here. Was our takeaway, is that the first step towards new life is believing that there is something worth making new. And we said, without a doubt, that you and I, you're worth it. That you matter to God, that you are made uniquely by Him, and that your life is of value. Which is why He sent His Son Jesus to walk across this earth, to live a life so that He could one day pay for the sins and wrongs that you and I and the rest of humanity have carried out. You see, sin is a fancy way of saying that God has a mark for us, a target, and much like archery, if we're aiming for that target, that you and I, more often than not, miss the mark. That we fall short, that God has a design for us, and sometimes by our own choices, by our own actions, sometimes things outside of our control, we miss that, but God cared enough for us and believes that we have enough worth that He sent Jesus so that we could be free. And my hope is that if you don't get anything else today, that you know that God values you, loves you, made you in His very image. You are unique, you are special, and you are loved. But we know that in this journey of becoming new, that we can't just take one step, because that's not a journey. Nobody would say like, whew, man, I worked out, I'm good, took that step. No, we would say that in the process of being refined, that we would take a step and we would begin to move in a direction and eventually take those steps further and further. And so we jumped into week 2 where we looked at the ice cream sundae, if you were here. And we made something, you want ice cream right now. And we made this big ice cream sundae, and I asked if everybody wanted to eat it, and everybody's like, yes. And then I poured a bunch of ketchup on it. And everybody's like, you just missed the mark and sinned, my friend. What did you do? The thing is that God creates this beautiful life for you and I, this existence that could indeed be perfect, and yet it is inevitable that we sin and disrupt it, whether it's by our own doing or by the outside influences, but it never ends up the way He designed. And so we walk through, all right, what's that next step in becoming new? And we put it this way, is that the new you will be the best you when you process through a God-focused lens. And when we say a God lens, we talk about that our prayer life, talking with God, reading the Bible, His narrative for how His existence and movement in this world and in eternity happens, and how we can be a part of that. Being in this. So we focus everything, all that we encounter through a God lens, but we do so with who? Others. That we would be with other people, that we can't walk this journey out alone, that you can't be an island. You can try to be, but we even said that week that eventually anonymity will catch up with you. And that you'll go, man, I wish I had someone. And God says, yeah, I wish you had someone too, and I've given you opportunities. Now, often we'll make excuses why we will not take those, but the truth is God gives us opportunities to be in community with others. So He said with others, life connected to life, that it's better that way. Or we say it a lot this way, that you would have someone that loves God and loves you, but that loves God more than they love you. So they're able to say very loving things and sometimes the hard truths in a loving way. And they're not saying those things to be like, man, I'm going to say this because I want your life to be completely derailed and you end up in jail. Or, man, I really hope that I could say these things so that you'll be depressed for the rest of your life. No, they say these things because they love you and love God and want the best for you. But not only do we not want to just sit there and take that second step, but that we'll walk through this journey, and this is what brought us to last week, that the new you must leave the old you behind, because the new you cannot cling to what? To darkness. And the thing is, all of us have a past and a darkness in this life. A thing that maybe we're dealing with right now, maybe that keeps whispering back to you. So I don't know if you've ever had that thing as you go through life and you feel like you're finally gaining ground, only for something else to tell you you're not good enough. you're never going to make it. You're never going to amount to anything. Remember what you used to be. There's no way that you can ever overcome that. And the way that I put it to you guys was this. It says, when the past calls, let it go to voicemail. Believe me, it has nothing new to say. See, if some of you are like me, and if we could be transparent, I talked about it last week, this is one I wrestle with a lot. And when I say wrestle with it, I mean like I want to fight against letting go of my past. Because sometimes our past feels like a warm blanket where it feels much easier to sit in that than it is to move forward. And I love the way that Rick Warren, is a pastor in California, puts it this way. He says, we are products of our past. It influences how we are, how we move, how we breathe, but we don't have to be prisoners of it. And if you're anything like me, or if you're anything like most of humanity, sometimes our past can lock us so deeply into a cell that we feel like we can never escape. But the beauty is you are not a prisoner to your past. God loves you. God made you with worth. God wants you to walk this journey out with a lens with others. And he wants you to leave the past and the darkness and the hurt so far in the rearview mirror that you could just continue moving in how he designed you. But then we look at this and we say, all right, well, God, you're giving me this, but how do I walk through and be made new and take that next step with you? What does that look like for me? And I love this guy, Paul. He's an early church planter, and he's going around planting churches, and then he writes back to them, and we've been in this book that he wrote to these people, the Ephesian people that were out there in these churches doing ministry and trying to honor God, and we've been walking this book out in the Bible, looking at how life becomes new. And if you have a Bible, I'd love for you to turn over to Ephesians chapter 6. Ephesians chapter 6 is where we're going to be. In a moment, we'll be over in verses 10 and following. If you don't have a Bible, we give them away for free at the Get Connected table in the lobby. We share this kind of stuff every week because we want you to have your own Bible. It's an easy-to-read translation. You can write in it, highlight it. You're not going to get struck by lightning, all right? It's not like that. Be like, I can't write in a book. You can write in this book. Highlight stuff, circle it, make notes for yourself. Bring that new Bible back with you because every week we open up the account that God has for us about his story, and we dig in to see how it impacts our story. And usually that means that it wrecks our story, and we're the ones who have to come alongside with him. If you don't like carrying around a Bible, but you bring around your electronic leash, you can use that mobile device and download a Bible app. And so download a Bible app onto your phone. It's really easy to use. One of our favorite ways is the Forefront Church app. It has all the notes for today. You can email those back to yourself, and you can fill that out. It has some other ways to engage. You can listen to past messages that we like, the ones that we were talking about in the beginning of this message. You can connect in a bunch of other ways. All those tools are free, and here's the reason why. Because we know that this hour and change, if this is the only time that you engage your faith, that you're going to feel malnourished spiritually and emotionally. And so our hope is that this time each week isn't the only time that you're spending connecting with God. It's so these are resources, these are tools to engage your faith. And as we catch up with Paul, as he's writing to this church, it's interesting because he's gone through this whole thing. Hey, you have worth, you have value. Hey, by the way, as you walk us out, you're going to need to view this through a God lens with other people. Don't try to do this alone because it's going to go bad for you to be alone. You need to do this with other people. And hey, on top of that, as you walk this out with other people, don't keep looking in the rearview mirror. Don't keep looking and going into the past, but focus on the present and what God has desired for your life, and look towards the future in the process of this, because man, if you bring that baggage along with you, it's going to get really hard. He says, because I've said all that, and then he wraps up with these like final words, like a coach in a locker room, all right? Like the coach today for the New York Football Giants. He's going to say, listen, go beat the Redskins. He's like, you only bring like 50% and it'll work out, all right? But he's in there and he's saying, listen, these are going to be the final words. The final words. And here's what he says, starting in verse 10. If you don't have a Bible, it's here on the screen. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. I just want to pause there. You know, I grew up in church. I didn't really want to go, but my parents drugged me and they made us go. But everything that I heard and read and understood when I was growing up made it sound like I had to be super strong to follow Jesus. Like I had to have my life all together to follow Jesus. Like it was so relying on me. And I love these words. It says, finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. That you and I get to lean into his power and not our own. That is that is a breath of fresh air. That it's not contingent upon how strong I am or how strong you are, but on how strong God is. Continues on, it says, put on the full armor of God. This is basically saying staying completely connected with him. Prayer, reading your Bible, being with other people in community, sharing this out, serving people, and not being about yourself, but being about others. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers and against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. I love that line. Our struggle is not against flesh and blood. During an election cycle, this is all too true. During a time when we look around and see the racial tension, this is all too true. That the highlight of the political realm or the racial tension has far less to do with flesh and blood, but what Satan stirs up in a broken world to make men and women and children believe lies about one another and about systems and about what takes place instead of being catalysts of change in his name, not in ours. Love this stuff. And then he continues on in verse 13. Therefore, since we see this, you're going to be strong. You're going to be connected with God. And because of all that, therefore, put on the full armor of God so when the day of evil comes, not that, oh man, you might encounter stuff, that you and I are guaranteed to encounter hardship, pain, and suffering. I'm so glad I came to church today. I could have told you, but Jason, I could have stayed home and known that. I've been going through stuff. But therefore, put on, be connected with God and moving in God. Therefore, because stand, when the day of evil comes, you'll be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand. See, Roxy, when she threw that scooter, I was trying to process. I said, baby, because being a dad, I want to understand what's going on. I said, I want you to show me why your scooter is broken. So, all right, Daddy, I'm just going to, wipes her tears away, and she tries, and as soon as she pushes off, the first thing I realize, I'm like, baby, I totally know why. And she looks at me with eyes like, tell me. I'm like, baby, you're in the house on the carpet, and that carpet is not made. This scooter is not made to move on carpet. It needs to go outside. And her face is just like, walking around. Daddy, I'm not going outside. The concrete's hard, Daddy. It's going to hurt. What if I fall or whatever? I just wanted to be in here. If I had known I had to go out there, then I wouldn't have done. I just wanted to be right here, Daddy. Just make it work right here because that's what I want. I don't want to go out there. Out there is scary. It's going to hurt. I'm going to fall. You know how many times I talk with people and they do that with God? You know how many times I've done that with God? God, I got this really great plan. I'd really like to convince you how great it is, so that way you could come along in my plan. And God's like, excuse me? Because I'm really introverted, and God plays a cruel joke for 30 minutes at a time on me. And then the rest of the week I get to be introverted. And then there'll be moments where I'll see somebody and something's going on. I'm like, God, and I'll have this conversation with God, I don't really want to help them. And he's like, so? I'm like, and he's like, no, go. But we give this laundry list to God about what the ideal situation is going to be in engaging our faith and how we're going to do it. God, this would be really great, but here, I need you to give me a church where I really like the music. Because if I like the music, then it's of God. You know that even on Sunday mornings, I love our band. If it were up to me, we would just have acoustic and throwback tunes. That's because that's my preference. But today, this isn't about me. Well, God, I need to go, but as long as they have an awesome, exactly what I want at children's ministry, then we'll go. Well, if that preacher guy, if he's bearable, then we will go. Then God, you got to do, but you got to do all this stuff. The church has to be close to my house. They got to be able to, and we give God the laundry list and we go, here. I'll engage my faith if your church looks like this. Or even better yet, God, I will go and serve you as long as you help out Uncle Ray. If you can make him better, then, God, then I'll follow you. Or God, my kids are off the rails. If you could just get them to not be kids, then I'll follow you. If you can do that. And God's going, what? I love you, but I never made you to just be in this bubble on the carpet. I made you to be out in the road and out into the world, to be with people. And you want to make this about you? Do you know what I did with my son? I sent him to live a life and die so that you could be free, and you want to be on the carpet? That's not even how and what I made you for. I made you for so much more. Why would you settle for a lackluster adventure, not even an adventure in the comfort of your home instead of going out? And there were some guys who got this premise, who were fearful with the rub, and I'm glad that when they saw the fork in the road of living in fear or trusting God, they were threatened with their lives, and this is what they shared. It says Acts 2 on the screen, but it's actually chapter 4 because sometimes the hamster falls asleep at the wheel. It says, then they called them in again and commanded them not to speak or to teach in the name of Jesus. So these guys love God, and they're going and sharing their faith. But Peter and John replied, which is right in God's eyes, to listen to you or to him? You be the judges. In verse 20 is one of the coolest verses, I think. The whole Bible's amazing, but this just kind of blows me away and puts me in my place. As for us, we cannot help speaking about what we've seen and heard. Hey, that's great. I know you might even try to kill us, might try to even imprison us. I'm not quite sure, but I know you want us to just sit on the carpet and live a life exactly like you've said, but God never made me to be on the carpet. And so we're going to go out and we're going to share. And if that's okay with you, you be the judge of that. And we would put it this way in our takeaway for this week, is that people made new give away what they've been given because they cannot keep it to what? Themselves. They can't keep it in. They have to go and tell everyone. A pastor in South Carolina said it this way. He said, found people, find people. Or how we say it here at Forefront Church, we will be people helping people to find and follow Jesus. That we're going to help one another and the people around us find God, because Jesus' love compels us to live uncomfortably. Talk about being an introvert. You know, and I get you. There's a lot of you who are introverts. I'm not going to go to a small group because I'm awkward. I'm awkward. And we're like, yeah, you're awkward. I'm awkward too. Let's be awkward together, but we just won't talk about it. All right, we'll do that. And like, oh no, I can't really tell my neighbor about God because, and we'll just get like whatever reason. And it's like, I get it. I totally get it. But God never called you or I to a life of comfort. He called us to a life that is free from ourselves and given to him. I love the way in the Old Testament that it's said in Joshua 1:9. It says, have I not commanded you to be strong and courageous? Do not be dismayed. I will be with you wherever you go. And not only does Jesus' love compel us in that way, Jesus' love reminds us that we were never meant to live safe. Now, I get it. In a culture where safety we've gone safety crazy, all right? And like my running joke has always been like, hey, you know, you like nowadays, like back in the day, like kids, like when their seatbelts on, they'd be like, get the kid in the window, do whatever. Now, like you have to put a kid in like full pads to go use the restroom, all right? Like I get it. We are about safety. There is nothing safe about living a life for God. Not a single thing. Jesus' love moves in such a way and reminds us that this life is not going to be safe. And as we follow him and as we're being made new, we're going to be called to places that we are uncomfortable with, and it will feel unsafe. I remember getting Roxy out onto the road, and we got the scooter, and she's like, Daddy, I don't want to do this. I'm totally going to die. I'm like, you're not going to die. I was like, you may fall, you may even get your head, you may even get stitches, which is what you should not say to your child. because she had been through that train before, and that didn't work out well. And so again, I'm like, I'm going to be, and the thing is I didn't put her out there and go, figure it out, kid, and walk back inside the house. So, all right, I'm going to come alongside you because that's what the Father does. I want to come alongside you as you're in this new journey. And she began to push. Daddy, don't let me go. Daddy, don't let me go. Baby, I got you. You are doing great. And before we knew it, I let go, and she was moving along. And the reason that we got her this perfect gift for her in the first place was the moment that she was on the scooter and she turned around. I saw the look on her face. This look of pride, this look of I've trusted Dad, this look of my father and my mother give good gifts in the same way that God only gives perfect gifts. And the thing is she just kept rolling. Like she just kept riding. I'm like, Roxy! And she was riding down the road. Miss Marianne, who lives down on our street, she's in her 70s, and she's riding down there. She never talked to this woman, and she's riding down there and telling Miss Marianne, and she pulls up next to her, and as I'm running down the street, she pulls up and stop. Got my new scooter. Like, just looks at it. She's like, I ride all by myself. You want to see? She, like, whips it around. She's like, doing her thing, and then she goes to the other kid, this kid on our street, and she's like, hey, never talks to him, older kid. Hey, got my scooter. Can ride it. Just wanted to let you know. You want me to see me? I can do it with one foot. She's only been on this thing telling everybody, tells the neighbors, tells all the other kids at the birthday party. Like, we are going on and on and on. She is so pumped about this because when you are made new, you cannot help but tell everybody that you come into contact with. You see, you guys have been doing that. We've watched over the last 2 years, we're an 18-year-old church, and over the last 2 years since we've been in this space, like Tommy mentioned in the opening, we've seen over 100 people get baptized. Whether it's in the horse trough, a hot tub, or at the ocean front. We've watched as our attendance has more than doubled. We went from one service at Ocean Lakes High School to 3 services here. And you guys, this service here, the 11 o'clock service, y'all crazy. I mean that in a good way. Like, I have people who come to this service who are like, I'm going to fill up the whole middle section on my own, and they keep bringing friends. And the thing is, they keep filling up this middle section here. And I'm like, you got to, I don't want to tell them to stop, but I'm like, hey, you keep bringing people, and like, we're running out of room. The last 4 weeks, we've had to set up chairs in the lobby because some of you guys go out there so you can make room for people that are in here. See, because when a room gets 80% full, people stop coming. Bless you. When that happens, when we get to a place where the room gets too full, because I know for introverted and awkward, anxiety-driven people, I get the emails where they say, hey, I love your church, but I came at 11 o'clock, which is when most people come that are new. I can't come back. I might come to the 5 p.m., but I can't come back because there's just not enough space for me. Because sitting next to one of you guys, even though you're very loving and kind, even some of y'all don't look like it, like you're very loving and kind, like they're just like, I feel anxiety driven, I can't do it. I don't know if you've been back to see the fact that y'all love to procreate, but at this service here, there have been times where a carpet of kids went from like 6 to like 16. Like that. We had kids that moved up and were like, where'd all these kids come from? Like, whatever. I never want the fire marshal to show up on a Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, ever. Like, I'm like, just because of the kids, like, they're safe. Don't they, like, should I bring my kids? Am I safe? No, that's not what I'm saying. All right? But here's what I know. God trusts what's happening here at Forefront Church because he keeps bringing people. Our services, all of them continue to get full, but this one is getting bonkers. And so starting October 30th, we're moving to 4 services. And so, but here's the thing. I hear you guys applauding and all that stuff, and I think it's awesome. But my goal is not to just have 4 services. Like, my goal, and the staff hates me when I say this, I'm like, my goal is like 5 services, 6 services. And that's not about like, oh, because of Forefront. No, because I know that there are people in this community that don't know Jesus. I know that there are people that are trying to live life on the carpet, and God wants them in the streets enjoying the adventure. And you've experienced that. And I'm experiencing that. And my kids are experiencing that. Got messages from high school friends who get to come into this room who are like, I knew you when you were in high school. I'm like, I'm sorry. And then they come, and they're like, wow, what happened in your life? And I'm like, let me tell you about this man named Jesus that changed me. And this service can't stay the way it is. Our church will never stay at mediocre. We will always strive to get off the carpet and into the streets with people and tell everybody that we know. And so we only have a few more weeks of this being the way that it is, because God's doing a great thing, and I want you to continue to be able to have room to invite your friends. Your friends that are pumped, your friends that are hurting, your friends that are tired, your friends that have kids that they won't come, but they'll let you bring their kids, and they get to be back there and have another opportunity for adults to just care for and love them, because for some of them, they're not getting it at home. For your friends that do feel socially awkward and don't know if they could come into a room like this, that you go, hey man, we're opening up room for you. I care about you. I want you to come with me. I want to sit beside you and do this. And so on your way out, you're going to get one of these cards. You're actually going to get two cards, and they're both yours. You will not be giving them to anyone but yourself. Here's the deal. This card that you get handed by an usher, it has 3 colors on there. I want you to pick a service, and you're going to mark it. And what it says is this: on October 30th, a new chapter starts as we live out the mission of being people helping people to find and follow Jesus. Because I love people far from God, I'm committing to help others find and follow Jesus by going to the following service for the next 5 months. Now, we're not going to check at the door because we don't know, all right? Because I know some of y'all's wheels are turning. Be like, how are they going to do that? I'll come wherever service I want to. All right, I get it. Some of you guys are anti-authority. That's why you're here, because you need some Jesus, okay? All right? I get it. But here's the deal. The reason that we say this 5 months, and there's some reasons why. One, I want you to do this, and you're going to put it on your fridge. You're going to put it on your dash. You're going to do whatever. But I want you to pray, and I want every single person, whether you're an adult or a kid, because this helps us with this, that you have this card. Put it on your desk. Put it, if you're a student, put it in your locker. And I want you to pray for October 30th that we go, oh my gosh, we added that service and we're going to have to add another one. That would be my hope and prayer, is that you guys duplicate yourselves so much that we just go, gosh, this is like Gremlins. We're going to have to add another service because they keep, that it busts at the seams because people need to know Jesus. And this is your card that you keep to pray over the next month. Here's the deal. You are going to pick up from the table a second card. That card is going to have either 8:30, 10, 11:30, or 5. Yes, I did say 8:30. Some of y'all just got stressed out. You're at the 11 o'clock service now. I know there's no way on God's green earth we're getting you up at 8:30, okay? But 8:30, 10, 11:30. Some of y'all walk in late every week. You grab an 11:30 card, all right? That way you'll be on time. You'll be like, they made a service, so I could be on time. All right, okay? Some of y'all are early risers. You're going to go to the 10. Okay? I know who walks in late. I'm not looking at anybody. I saw people nudging. He said us. Yeah, I see you. Don't worry. I'm not going to call you out. But here's the deal. That card that you pick up that has the color, you keep that one, but the week before October 30th, you are going to take that card that says the service time on our website, and you're going to go to somebody and say, hey, this next week, our church has more services, and I want you to sit beside me this week. And give them the service time with the card and the website and say, hey, I really care about you, and our church does too. They've been already planning stuff for you, and they don't even know you. And you're going to bring some people with you that need to hear about God's love and God's grace. Because as a church, we will do anything short of sin to see people far from God encounter Jesus. And the thing is, and why we say the 5-month thing, is we want to be able for you, it leads right up to Easter. So we'll have a good indication of how services are. And if you're adult and you may be socially awkward and say, like, I don't talk to people, eventually I hope that you're brave enough to move from the carpet to the street and that you'll ask somebody, say, hey, what's your name? if you see them over and over week after week in that service. If you have kids, you would be livid if your kid showed up to their class every week at school and had a different teacher. You would be down at whatever school system you're at. You would be down there talking to somebody. Be like, I need the same teacher. Why in the world would you do that to your kids when it comes to their faith in God? I would suggest that you come to that same service every week because they have leaders that they'll see every week, and they're building a spiritual bond with them as they share with them and care for them and love on them. If you do that with their public education, why wouldn't you want to do that with their spiritual formation? That they're really able to have some leaders that pour into them. My kids, they love me, but they really love their leaders back there. Like, they talk about them way more than their dad. And I could take that and be like, ugh. But you know what? I'm so glad that they have people that care about them in that way. And so I'm pumped for the next chapter as a church. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. But more than anything else, what it does is it takes this service here and opens up new opportunities for you to invite your friends. And there's limited number of cards for each one of those services. And so maybe for you go, no, I know a friend that's here and I want them to come to that service. Grab a card for them. And once cards are gone for that service, they're gone. Now, again, we're not going to shut you down. If you're new, you go to whatever service you want. All right? Other people will be like, hey, man, you didn't pick up a card. Jason told me not to. All right? We just want you to come. We're glad that you're here. But for those of us who call Forefront home, we want to be able to make some commitments because we love our friends. And for those of you guys who are new, we love you too. And we're glad that you're here. I don't even know what's happening right there. Why don't you guys pray with me? God, I thank you for today. I thank you that we get to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. I thank you that we get to laugh. We don't take ourselves too seriously, but we do take you seriously. In our journey with you to becoming new, as we start believing that we have worth, as we walk this out with you and others, as we leave our baggage behind, and now, God, we will go and tell the world, our friends, our family, and loved ones, that you are real and that they have love from you. God, let us be brave and get off the carpet and get into the street. It's through your Son we pray all these things. Amen.